Hey, good morning, everybody. So that Brad over at the Chapter Conundrum tagged me on this. Anyhow, I haven't done one of these, so thought maybe it'll be a little fun. We'll see how it goes. 24 questions that we're supposed to just answer off the cuff and see what our brains come up with. In my defense, it is still AM, so I guarantee nothing. All right, ebook or physical book? Preference physical book, but at this point in my life, ebook A sometimes is a lot cheaper, and B certainly a lot easier to carry around. I am not picky, however, I do like my physical books when given the opportunity. Paperback or hardback? You asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said hardback. We moved a couple times since then. Paperback is looking a lot nicer to my back and knees. So yeah, I usually lean paperback these days. Although I don't turn down a hardback, I don't go out of my way for them. Online or in-store book shopping? Well, that all depends on whether I have money or not. Online book shopping, if I'm looking for a specific book, obviously I can go on, I can grab one. Sometimes I can find it cheaper than in real life. However, I do love my brick and mortars, so sometimes I do go to a brick and mortar where I can usually find something, even if I can't find the book I was looking for. I usually don't have that problem online. If I can't find what I'm looking for, I'm out. I almost always spend more in an in-store bookshop. But I'm sure they're not complaining. Trilogies or series? Ooh, that one's a tough one. I'm going to lean trilogies, mainly for one reason. If you are a new reader and you run into something like, let's say, the Dresden Files now, that could look a little overwhelming, as much as I love that series. In fact, I'm doing a reread of it right now. So, yeah, a trilogy, it's nice to kind of know when it's going to wrap up. Although we all know of at least one trilogy that still hasn't wrapped up after like 20 years, but that's besides the point. Heroes or villains? This one might be a little bit of a surprise for some of you. Don't get me wrong, I like a good villain. I think a good story needs a good villain, but I am much more interested in the hero's journey. I know. A book you want everyone to read. Well, I've been on social media lately, and I'm pretty sure y'all need to read a dictionary and possibly your Bible, but that's besides the point. If there was a book I want everybody to read, it's tough. My heart wants to go to Count of Monte Cristo, but I know there's going to be some classics that just nobody wants to read. Oh, tough one. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and throw this one out there. I'm going to say Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan. It is fun. It is a blast. It turns a lot of story tropes upside down. And so, yeah, I'm going to throw that one out there. I think it's also safe enough that almost everybody's going to like it. A recommended underrated book. Probably going to have to go with Famine Witch? Yeah, just Famine Witch by Stephen Black. This one came out in early 24, I want to say. It's completely up my alley. Absolutely love that book. I didn't actually look up to see how good of a seller it was. I just know I don't see a lot of people talking about it on Booktube, and it's kind of got that gothic horror, but it's also a little bit historical fiction. But yeah, a lot of gothic horror. It's great book. That's all I'm gonna say. Go read the book. The last book you finished. The last book I finished was They Bloom at Night. And in fact, if you want to go back to last week, I talk about it in my weekly wrap-up. The last book I bought. Depends on if you count ebooks or not. I'm going to go with the last physical book I bought because it comes to mind more often. I finally picked up Jay Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire. And yeah, I know people gave me some warnings about it, but I just want to look to see what I'm missing. All right. Weirdest thing you've used as a bookmark? I don't have a good answer for that one. I'm very protective of how I treat my books, so usually I've got a bookmark, or I've got a envelope or the receipt or a Pokemon card, or nothing too crazy has ever been used as a bookmark. Used books, yes or no? Again, I don't have a problem with used books. I have used books before. I've used library books before. Usually I want to keep them in a certain condition. So I don't, if I know it's just going to be a reading copy and I'm going to get rid of it, I don't care too much, but I usually like it a little pretty, like me. Anyhow, top 3 favorite genres. I read a lot of stuff, but probably fantasy, sci-fi, but very specific, and probably horror are my top 3. Although I do love a good thriller, mystery, international man of mystery type thing. Borrow or buy? 10, 15 years ago, we went to our library a lot. We did a lot of borrowing. I don't have a problem with that. These days, I probably buy more often, though. Just because, hey, I like the pretty books on my shelf. Character or plot? This is a tough one. A bad plot can really ruin a book. But I would rather read about a character I care about if the plot was meh than read a really good plot, but I don't really care about any of the characters in it. Long or short books? This is another one that's changed over the years. 10, 15 years ago, if you'd asked me this, I love a long book. Some of my favorites of all time, Count of Monte Cristo, Swan Song. I got some chonkers in there. These days, though, especially now since I've started doing Booktube, where a lot of times I've got to read a book, and I don't want to sound that like, it's homework, but, if I'm going to have an author on, I'm going to read their book. So if I'm doing an author interview or somebody has sent me an arc that I need to review or anything like that, then, shorter sometimes could be a little bit better. Makes me makes me happy. What do we got? We got long or short chapters. Short chapters. That's not a question. I think I've talked about this before, but if I like to read at night sometimes, and a long chapter, you look at it and it's like, when does this chapter end? But as you get a short chapter, you get that one more chapter. Next thing you know, it's like morning. So short chapters definitely get me through the book faster, even if it's the same number of pages. Name the first 3 books you think of. Well, I just talked about a couple of them, so they're probably fresh on my mind, but Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas and Swan Song by Robert McCammon are 2 of my favorite books ever. And the one I'm currently just popped open is We Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I haven't read it enough. It's not stuck in my head yet. By V. Schwab. That one's coming out in June, so that one's fresh on my mind. Books that make you laugh or cry. Men don't cry. I'm just kidding. I don't mind a bad emotional book, a good book that brings a tear to your eye, but in general, I'd rather laugh. I like a book with a good sense of humor, and a really good book will do both. But if I had to pick one, I would probably pick laughing. Our world or fictional worlds? Gotta say, normally I love fictional worlds. I'm big into fantasy, and I just love that whole thing with magic and all that other stuff. I don't mind an occasional real world book. This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger was excellent, and that's definitely a real world book. And the occasional urban fantasy that mixes a little bit is fine. Not a huge fan, though, of the ones where they try to combine it too much. Like right now I'm reading The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, and I absolutely love the story, but it is a little disjointing when, you've got elves and all these other things walking around, and all of a sudden they're talking about Venice or Troy. Or I like them to be one or the other. It's still a good book, but I like them to be one or the other. What else we got? Audiobooks, yes or no? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, the narrator can make or break an audiobook. And there are some audiobooks that I've listened to that I think after the fact I would have preferred to have read as a physical book. But again, I also like to read at night a lot, and the wife usually falls asleep before me, so popping in the earbuds and listening to the audiobook as I drift off has gotten me through a lot of books that I wouldn't have gotten through normally. Okay. Do you ever judge a book by its cover? Depends on your definition of judge. I've never decided a book is good by its cover, but I probably have decided whether to pick up a book by its cover, so take that for what you will. For the intents of this question, the answer is probably yes, even though it shouldn't be. Book to movie or book to TV adaptations. This is another thing that's changed. If you went back 10, 15, 20 years ago, TV shows had horrible budgets. Just go back and watch any of the Spider-Man movies in the 70s. Yeah, it's no good. But these days, with what they got going on and the budgets that they have and the fact that they turn them into 8 to 12 episode shows instead of trying to fill 22 to 30 per season, I think that the book to TV adaptation has a lot more room to flesh out the characters, and you end up with a lot less of the book on the cutting room floor. Although The Martian was good. Just saying. Last one. Oh my goodness. I am trying to do this rapid fire, aren't I? Series or standalones? Another one of those where I'm going to have to split it down the middle. My for fun reads, love series. I'm reading the Dresden Files right now. I think book 19. Don't quote me on that number, but I think book 19 is coming out later this year. Absolutely love that series, and I enjoy it. But a lot of times, especially when I'm interviewing an author, for instance, I was very happy to have interviewed Jim Butcher right after the Olympian Affair, or right before the Olympian Affair had come out, because that was a 2-book and 1 novella series, and I had read all of it. As to where if I had been interviewing him for a Dresden book, I am not caught up to the end of Dresden Files, and I feel really bad when I haven't read all of his series. So for interviews, I love the standalones. It's very easy, limiting the questions, not having to remember 20 years of book history. but for fun, for just chilling back and laying out, I do love a good series, although there are some excellent standalone books out there. 2 of my favorites that I mentioned, McCammon's Swan Song is a standalone. Dumas's Count of Monte Cristo is a standalone. Stephen Black's The Famine Witch. The Famine Witch? It's behind me on the shelf. The Famine Witch is a standalone. So yeah, there's some excellent standalones, and there are some series that maybe have gone on too long. But yeah, a good series is one of those ones where I need more. I admit it. Maybe it's a hypocritical, but there you are. Who am I going to tag on this thing? I apologize if somebody's already been tagged on this. It's early. I did not look up who else has already been on this. Let me throw Carly under the bus. I'd like to see what she has to say about this, especially as somebody younger who maybe not have so many books to go through in their memory. Who else? I feel like you got to do at least 3 when you tag these things. Already Overbooked. If you haven't already done this one, I'm going to throw this one at you. And if Ted hasn't done this, Ted read instead. If you want to do this, go ahead. If not, I know that you're kind of chilling. You may have already done this one. You do a lot of these tag things. And okay, so I don't know if this one would be up her alley or not, but the Shades of Orange, I'm going to toss you in there just in case one of these guys have already done it. So 3 to 4 people might do this tag. Did I have fun? A little bit, yeah. Don't know if I don't know if I want to do a lot of these tag things because sometimes it's I don't know the answer to that question, and as a guy that means I got to make something up. But I digress. So anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope some of you who I tagged in here will enjoy doing the video, and if not, I'm sorry. Have a good day, guys.